Namaskar. Good morning to all present here. I welcome one and all to this two-day National Conclave on State Finance Commissions at National Institute of Rural Development and Panchayati Raj, Hyderabad. The conclave aims to focus on the issues for all-round analysis and working of state finance commissions and to suggest broad roadmap and strategy towards bringing excellence to state finance commissions functioning in the future. The conclave will have various technical sessions related to the subject. We wish that this conclave prove to be a milestone. I now have the honor to welcome our dignitaries of the occasion. Shri Sunil Kumar Sir, Secretary, Ministry of Panchayati Raj, Government of India. Shri S.M. Vijayanand Sir, former Secretary, Ministry of Panchayati Raj, Government of India. Dr. Ashok Lahiri Sir, Member, 15th Central Finance Commission. Dr. Chandrasekhar Kumar Sir, Additional Secretary, Ministry of Panchayati Raj, Government of India. Dr.G.Narendra Kumar Sir, Director General, NIRDPR. Dr. Sajjan Singh Yadav Sir, Additional Secretary, Department of Expenditure, Ministry of Finance, Government of India, will join us shortly online. I welcome you all, sir. I also welcome all the respected members from various eminent institutions, members and officers from different state finance commissions and NIRDPR, faculty members and staff members. I now request all the dignitaries for lighting of the inaugural lamp. Thank you to all the dignitaries. I now request our team members to please welcome our dignitaries with flower bouquet. I request Ms. Himani to please welcome Shri Sunil Kumar sir. I request Ms. Soni to please welcome Dr. Ashok Lahiri sir. I request Ms. Shilpa to please welcome Dr. Chandrasekhar Kumar sir. I request Ms. Himani to please welcome Shri S.M. Vijayanand sir. I request Ms. Soni to please welcome Dr.G.Narendra Kumar sir. No, I think not. I now request Dr. Anjan Kumar Bhanja, Associate Professor and Head, Center for Panchayati Raj, Decentralized Planning and Social Service Delivery, NIRDPR, to please come upon the dais for a welcome address.
Good morning, everyone. Respected dignitaries on dais, distinguished guests, respected chairpersons and members from State Finance Commissions present today at NIRDPR on the occasion of this two-day National Conclave on State Finance Commissions. On behalf of NIRDPR, we take the privilege to welcome Shri Sunil Kumar, Secretary MoPR, Government of India, for kindly making it convenient to join this National Conclave. We feel honored to welcome Dr.G.Narendra Kumar, Director General NIRDPR, to this conclave. We feel proud to welcome to this conclave Dr. Ashok Lahiri, member of the 15th Central Finance Commission. We have the privilege to welcome Shri S.M. Vijayanand, former Secretary, Minister of Panchayati, Government of India, formerly Chief Secretary to the Government of Kerala, formerly Chairman of the State Finance Commission of Kerala. We feel proud to welcome to this National Conclave Dr. Chandrasekhar Kumar, Additional Secretary, Minister of Panchayati Raj, Dr. Sajjan Singh Yadav, Additional Secretary, Department of Expenditure, Minister of Finance, who will be joining through online, Mrs. Mamta Verma, Joint Secretary, Minister of Panchayati Raj, Government of India, Shri Abhay Kumar, Director, FCD, Minister of Finance. We heartily welcome the chairpersons of State Finance Commissions from 6 states, namely Shri Sergius Means from Chhattisgarh, Shri D.A. Hawaldar from Goa, Shri S.M. Vijayanand from Kerala, Shri Vishwanath Giriraj from Maharashtra, Shri G. Ganesham Govt from Telangana, and Mrs. Tasi from Sikkim. We heartily welcome the member secretaries of State Finance Commissions from 5 states, namely Shri Satish Pandey from Chhattisgarh, Dr. Y. Durga Prasad from Goa, Shri Satish Chand Derasri from Rajasthan, Shri Suresh Chanda from Telangana, and Shri Rajnarayan Pradhan from Sikkim. We heartily welcome the members and other senior officials from 6 State Finance Commissions to this National Conclave, namely Dr. J.S. Viridi, Joint Secretary, Mrs. Payal Gupta, Research Officer from Chhattisgarh, Shri Rajesh Kumar Gupta, Joint Secretary from Rajasthan, Shri M. Chennaya, Member SFC Telangana, Professor Sudarshan Rao, and Shri K. M. Naidu, members State Finance Commission of Andhra Pradesh, Mrs. Rohini Rai, Member SFC Sikkim, and Dr. Prabhat Prasad Ghosh, Member SFC Bihar. We have also the privilege to welcome to this national conclave a galaxy of distinguished guests, namely Professor V.N. Alok from Indian Institute of Public Administration, Dr. Pinaki Chakravarti, former director from NIPFP, he will be joining today in the evening, secretaries and other senior officers from 6 states, eminent academicians from a number of renowned institutions across India, namely Professor R.V. Ramanamurthy, Dean School of Economics, University of Hyderabad, Dr. Pradeep Kamble from SES, and faculty and consultants from NIRDPR and all other who are present here in this conclave. Thank you all.
Now, I would like to request Dr. Chandrasekhar Kumar, sir, Additional Secretary, Ministry of Panchayati Raj, Government of India, to please brief about the background and objectives of this conclave.
Very good morning to all. Respected Secretary Panchayati Raj, Shri Sunil Kumar ji. Respected Shri Dr. Ashok Lahiri ji, Member 15th Finance Commission. Respected Shri Vijayanand sir ji. Respected DG NIRDPR Dr. Narendra Kumar ji. Respected chairmans and members of various state finance commissions who are participating in this conclave. Bhanja ji, respected esteemed colleagues from ministries, esteemed faculty members from various academic institutions, faculties from NIRDPR, and ladies and gentlemen. At the outset, let me first express my sincere gratitude to DG NIRDPR and his whole team for organizing this conclave on state finance commissions, which was long overdue. I think when we discussed with Mr. Bhanja and DG Saab, so last I think we recall it was organized in 2016. And after that, I don't think there was any occasion to discuss on this matter. Maybe COVID intervened, and I think it's long gap we are discussing in such an important issue. And as you know, the finance is the lifeblood for functioning of any organization. And the aspirations of the 73rd Constitutional Amendment, I think 1992-93, already we are 30 years ahead, 30 years gone. And to actually translate that aspirations of the constitutional mandate and also the people, it is important that appropriate and commensurate financial arrangements have to be worked out. And as being the panchayats, maybe rural bodies, urban, they are in their own right the institutions of local self-governance. So we can't treat them just like any other implementing agency and just provide some central grant and state grant and expect that the people's aspirations in the 21st century will be fulfilled. And but whatever come may, we observed when you're preparing the report, when discussing Mr. Bhanja, there is a serious issue of few things which and that's why this conclave is very important. This 2-day conclave will help out in finding those resolutions. Particularly, I think there is serious lack of data, serious lack of facts, and lot of variations among states in the Finance Commission functioning itself, and their interaction with Central Finance Commission itself, and in the Central Finance Commission report, the how we can coordinate with the State Finance Commission. These are many things. I think this 2-day conclave will find a way. Whether when now when we are preparing the memorandum for the next Finance Commission, whether all these aspirations, the State Finance Commission coordination will be a part of that, and how to carry it forward. So if you kindly appreciate the fact, in last 30 years, most of the states should have 6 finance commissions by this time. But I think, so far my knowledge goes, not more than 6 states, or 9 states, sorry. 9 states have 6th Finance Commission, and Not more than another 5-6 states have 5 finance commission. So not more than half of the states we are able to complete the finance commissions as per the requirement of the constitutional mandate. And also there is a huge variation in the preparing the report. Some finance commissions have taken more than 5 years to prepare the report. Some finance commissions have taken 1 year. And also it's the ministry and the states, we could not work out at least a general working format on which the state finance commission should work out. Because the devolution formula is also huge variation we find. Somewhere it is 2%, somewhere is 8%, somewhere it is even 40% also. So in India itself, there is a huge variation across states, it is observed. And if you go to per capita devolution also, there is a huge variation. Some states it is 200 rupees, some states it is 4,000 rupees also. So in India itself, we are finding such huge variation. And I think its time has come, this conclave will be very important to discuss and thresh out these issues. How can we reach out at least a minimum denominator, what we say, that at least the aspirations of the people can be worked out, the rural areas, we always say that we need to bridge the gap between rural and urban areas. But unless until we work out a institutionalized format for the financial assurance to the local bodies, and in which they are equally participative, in which they are equally the decision making. And it's not that they are just a passive receptacle and whatever formula and whatever we work out and hand out to them and they just accept it. And so I think I think another 2-3 years are there. So I think these 2 days conclave will work out in thrashing out those issues. What exactly we need, where these panchayats, the local bodies should also find a voice. Their concerns equally should be highlighted in the State Finance Commission and the Central Finance Commission, and so that in the coming generation, जो अमृत काल हम बोल रहे हैं कि अमृत काल में लोगों को सारी हमें सुविधाएं पंचायत के गांव के स्तर पर देनी है, घर पे मिलनी है, उनको जो फैसिलिटी जो सर्विसेज हम डिलीवर कर रहे हैं शहरों में, अच्छे शहरों में, वो सर्विसेज भी अब जो यूथ हैं, जो लोग हैं उनकी भी बहुत एस्पिरेशंस बढ़ रही हैं. तो इसमें अब ये है कि जो पंचायत हैं, जो लोकल बॉडी हैं, वो भी इक्वली पार्टिसिपेट हों. दे शुड नॉट बी मियर है सिंपली रिसिप्टेकल ऑफ फंड कि भाई इतना ग्रांट दे दिया, आप ले लो आप ये ग्रांट और उसको इम्प्लीमेंट कर दो. तो आई थिंक दैट माइंडसेट से हमको थोड़ा आगे बढ़ना पड़ेगा. उनको एक इम्प्लीमेंटिंग एजेंसी की तरह ट्रीट करते हुए उनको भी हम इक्वली उतना रिस्पेक्ट दें कि वो भी एक गवर्नमेंट ही है. उनकी जो टैक्सेशन की जो इशू है, बहुत सारे स्टेट में हमने देखा है कि टैक्सेशन का तो एक्ट तो बन गया है, रूल ही नहीं बना है, तो वो कुछ कर ही नहीं रहे हैं. वो आप जहाँ जाएंगे, इतने हाईवे किनारे इतने बड़े मॉल बने हुए हैं, इतने बड़े बड़े गेस्ट हाउस सब बने हुए हैं, इतने होटल्स बने हुए हैं, बट वो कुछ टैक्स नहीं ले पाते हैं. पूछने पे क्यों नहीं ले रहे हैं भाई, तो बोलते हैं सर रूल ही नहीं है हमारा. तो आई थिंक दीज आर huge issues, I think, and I don't want to discuss many issues because there is full 2 days conference are there, and we have very senior and very knowledgeable persons are there who will be highlighting and who will be throwing light on these issues. So I think I request all of you kindly be very active participant and share as much information, share as much knowledge, share as much and share your advice. What will be happening at the end of the 2 days, we will be compiling the reports, we will be sharing with you, and going forward we will be taking all these reports and advices very, very sincerely and diligently, which will help the local bodies in coming years in meeting the aspirations of the people. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. I now request Dr. Ashok Lahiri, sir, Member 15th Central Finance Commission, to please give the inaugural address.
Thank you very much. I had thought that I'll say Dr. Kumar or Mr. Kumar, then I realized there are 3 Dr. or Mr. Kumars in this. So I have to address them individually. Director NIRDPR, Dr. Kumar, Shri Vijayanand, Secretary Shri Sunil Kumar, and Additional Secretary Chandrasekhar Kumar. NIRDPR faculty and SFC members and guests and friends who have come from outside. I must thank NIRDPR and Director Dr. Kumar for inviting me, because believe it or not, this is the first chance I got to get to this beautiful campus. And I have been interested in panchayats and rural development. And this is an opening. I hope this is not the last chance I'm getting to come here. See, it gives me an opportunity. I'm going to be here till tomorrow because I want to hear from you who are involved at the local level, at the third tier level, about developments in local government. And I want to sit there and listen to the deliberations very carefully. Mr. Kumar has already pointed out the great diversity in SFC recommendations, in practices and so on. So let me first start with the question that there are big fish. Why go after this small fish called local government? You can say that why don't you talk about the union government or the state government? Why bother about the small panchayats and local government? Now, as you know, many of you may know, or some of you may not, that I have a new incarnation now, but I don't come here as a politician. I'm a member of the Legislative Assembly of West Bengal, and that too, a rural constituency. So I have seen how panchayats work. So why do we focus on the local government level? I think the reason is twofold. If you ask anyone, where do you live, she will say Coimbatore, or she will say Chinaipota village. No one will say that I stay at the center or in the state. And the governments directly touch the lives of people at the local government level, water supply, roads, garbage collection, everything. So local governments are important because it is the most intimate government at the personal level. Second, there is a historical reason. In democracy, we keep talking about government by the people, of the people, for the people. I always get mixed up whether it should be by, of, or for, off, or by. So pardon if I have committed a mistake there. But you see, when it comes to the state level, when it comes to the central level, you elect an MLA, God alone knows what he does after going to the Legislative Assembly, or your member of parliament, no disrespect, but you have no direct control. But when it comes to the panchayats or local government, you are directly involved. The Gram Sabhas is there. In fact, Mahatma Gandhi was a great believer in local government. And he thought that there would be a partyless democracy where you don't even need the center or the state. Everything will be settled at the local government level. You may say that's a bit romantic kind of ideal rural communitarianism. But there was some force in that argument that if you want a government of the people, by the people, for the people, it can come alive at the local government level, at the panchayat level. And that's the reason, there are more experts here than me, in the Constitution, the self-government word is not used in the case of union or the state. It's used in the case of local government. Because that's the self-government where you're ruling yourself. So, it is, we must, if we want democracy to prosper, and if we want government to deliver the best result, we must make the local governments work. The local governments must work. Now, we are unique in many ways, and I don't say that to justify the lack of progress, lack of development, lack of improvement in literacy, but I genuinely feel proud that among large developing countries, we are one which has sustained democracy right from 1951 or 50. Or 51 I'm saying because the first general election was there, except for a small break, 19 months of emergency, we have sustained it. Now, has democracy delivered all the results? We know that we haven't made as much progress as East Asian countries or China, but not bad. We didn't have the great leap forward and millions dying. We haven't killed each other. We have built up our institutions, and we are slowly sort of gathering steam in development. So democracy may not have delivered the best results so far, but it is showing signs. Similarly, in local government, I believe, though from the 73rd and 74th Amendment in 1993, we may not have had as much results as we expected, but it is settling down. I mean, I say that from my personal experience in the last 2 years. You go to a village, you'll find people talking about, this Gram Sarak has to go from this man's house to that man's house. Or they will say, there is some problem here. They may not be as vocal as we want them to be, but they are quite focused. They're talking about where there should be, they don't say submersible pumps. In West Bengal, they use Marshall pump. Marshall, I think, is a company. They say Marshall. So where that should be, they want embankment. So people are speaking up, and I believe that Panchayati Raj institutions, municipalities, municipal corporations, there's a lot more that the third tier can do. And here, I'm aware of the fact that this institution and Mr. Sunil Kumar and the additional secretary, also the director, and Mr. Vijayanand, they're all interested. No, not Mr. Vijayanand. Mr. Vijayanand has got a larger mandate. He is SFC. So you also look after urban. But these three gentlemen here are very partial to rural local bodies. They're not interested in urban local. I'm sure they are, but they don't talk about it. So I say that it's working. Not to develop a sense of complacency. I'm not saying please rest on your laurels. Theek hai, sab theek hai. Nothing is okay. But at the same time, we shouldn't give up hope. It's a young democracy. We are progressing, and we will progress. And in this, we have to increase the effectiveness of local self-government. We must empower them. We must empower the people. We must ask them to speak up. I'll tell you one example. You see, in my constituency, it's surrounded on three sides by Bangladesh. So there is this fencing, and you have to have as an MLA, I can go, the BSF gives me a lot of respect. But if you want to go, you'll have to give your Aadhaar card, they will give you permission, you can go beyond the fence, because the international border is beyond the fence, some 500 meters or 750 meters. So there was a demand that in that area they needed a crematorium. So I gave money from my MLA lad. I get 60 lakhs. So that crematorium was built. And when I went there, I found they haven't cured the cement concrete. I can't blame them. Those poor guys don't know. But slowly they will learn that when you build something in concrete, you must insist that the contractor cures it and puts water. I'm not giving up hope. I'm sure that over time they will learn that. So let us let us focus on what should be done. Now I must congratulate Dr. Kumar for the concept note of the institute that has been circulated, and I find that it has as usual, and I am no exception. We always produce it at the last minute. It came at the last minute, so last night I tried to go through it, and it's very useful. It's very useful. First and foremost, what is the problem with SFCs? I mean, I'm one of you, so don't take it otherwise. I'll criticize you, but that's not, it's a constructive criticism. The first and foremost, Dr. Vijayanand, I must say that whatever little I know about Kerala, Kerala is one of the pioneers in local self-government work, so whatever I say may not apply to Kerala, but it applies to most of the other states. The third tier is doing too little. Now, the whole idea, if you ask any public finance specialist as to who should be doing the work, is what the European Union calls the subsidiarity principle. If it can be done at a lower level, get it done at the lower level, because they know the best. They know whether people need a school, or a road, or a hospital, or a primary health center. Don't leave it to Delhi or the state capital, Thiruvananthapuram or Hyderabad. Now, the third tier is doing too little because of the problems of 3 Fs. What are these 3 Fs? In fiscal federalism, the 3 Fs are functions, functionaries, and funds. Now, as you know, by the Constitution, 29 functions have been delegated to the third tier. But it hasn't been delegated. See, and I believe we have done the right thing. We cannot supersede the states. At the central level, we cannot say in this state you will do this. We must respect the states. And I have full faith in every Indian. They'll come around and see the merit. Why? It should be delegated to the third tier. So there are 29 functions, but the states have to delegate it. You cannot delegate it from the center. Now, functions also, correct me if I'm wrong, I find most states have technically said yes. But what's the meaning of delegating functions if you haven't delegated functionaries and funds? And here, I'll give one example. And I'm not giving this as a recommendation because there are many things that have to be taken care of before we come to a conclusion. But the 11th schedule of the Constitution lists education, including primary and secondary schools, which may be entrusted to the Panchayati Raj institutions. Now, having lived abroad for a long time, I know in the United States, for example, the counties have control over the schools. Now, why should we? I'm not very convinced that a school in Namchi should be controlled from Gangtok. What do you know in Gangtok about Namchi? So, why not delegate? But there are problems. There may be capture. The Gram Pradhan may appoint his sister-in-law or nephew or son even as primary school teacher. So we have to be careful. But we need to have the discussion, particularly given the fact that there is the problem of teacher absenteeism. There is the problem of crony appointments. There is the problem of quality of education being very poor. The same is true of primary health center. I'll tell you, in my constituency, I went to a place called Hilly at the border. There is a primary health center. And I wanted to meet the doctors, and I went there and found there are 2 doctors. One is an Ayurvedic doctor, the other is a homeopathic doctor. And I'm not disparaging homeopaths and Ayurveds. But there are many ailments for which all of you here, your first call is not on an Ayurveda or a homeopath, but on an allopath. So must it be for my poor constituency people in Hilly that they must go only to an Ayurveda or a homeopath. I don't know. Second is the issue of funds. Both devolution of funds from the state level and generation of own funds. I was telling Professor Anjan Bhanja yesterday that I went through this concept paper and discussion notes, and I found Professor Taqiyuddin's paper very useful, very useful. It has got a lot of very useful information. But one of the things that I didn't get, maybe I missed it, I looked at it in a great hurry. Maybe Professor Alok has looked at it. I'm very much interested in knowing that how much of the funds that the state governments give to the local bodies, how much of it, what proportion of it is what comes from the center through the Finance Commission award, and how much of it is because from their own resources. I suspect it will be very little, because as Mr. Chandrasekhar Kumar pointed out, that you look at the per capita devolution at the state level, the numbers are quite high. In fact, now I shouldn't say every dog has its tail, it'll be taken amiss, but now South India is showing us the way. South India is actually way forward, and the rest of us in the country should learn from them. You look at the per capita devolution from the state government level to the local governments, it's much higher in South India than in Northern India or Eastern India or Western India. So, see, the one SFC to another, also I was looking at what is devolved. Now, it could be a proportion of the divisible pool, it could be a proportion of the own revenue of states, it could be a proportion of the non-loan gross own revenue, it could be a proportion of the state's own taxes, could be a lump sum contribution to local governments. By no means am I suggesting that one size fits all the 28 states in India must follow the same principle. No. But we must know why we are doing what we are doing, so we must compare. And we must tell Goa, I don't mind Sikkim telling Goa, this works for you, but this doesn't work for us for this reason. Karnataka may tell Kerala, this is fine for you, but there is a reason. So we must have a reasoned discussion about which one is better, which one is not. And mind you, it will not happen overnight. Many researchers will have to work, and then only we will learn what should be working here. Now, the SFCs can prepare analytical tables of how local government mobilize resources in their relevant states, and the Ministry of Panchayati Raj Institution or National Institute of Rural Development and Panchayati Raj or even NIPFP can prepare comprehensive tables covering all the states. It's something like what Professor Taqiyuddin has done, but at a more elaborate level, and allows states to learn from each other about best practices. Now, in this context, I must say that we are human beings. I would like to get, now I am not in government service anymore, or any service, but we like to get more powers from our bosses. Our bosses are not as efficient as us, so we want more to come from us, to us. Neither are subordinates as efficient as us, so we want more powers from our superiors, and we want to give less to our subordinates. And the states are no exception. The states want more money from the center, but they don't want to give to these local governments. And they want to See, they don't want to give funds, they don't want to give functions, they don't want to give functionaries. In a democracy, ultimately, it will be the people who demand it. Because it has to be. I mean, you will get the kind of government that you deserve. The people have to demand. And I think it's happening. So you look at the Panchayat elections, my God, what energy. It's also, there is a lot of money that can be earned. That's part of the reason. I find that as an MLA, particularly opposition MLA, the kind of money that you can make is nothing. But you can make more money if you can become the member of the Gram Panchayat or Panchayati Samiti or Zilla Parishad. But how do you stop it? You stop it by people being very more careful. I mean, I can be stopped from being corrupt if my voters say, you steal, next time, come and ask us for a vote, you'll never get it. So this will happen. And the audits and accounts, and in fact, I also want to learn, in the Central Finance Commission, we had said about accounts and audits. And I'm dying to hear as to what progress you have made regarding those. Because I can't think of a government institution which is spending taxpayers' money and not preparing accounts. In my village, I want to know, where the hell are you building the road? How much did you spend there? If I know, I'll create a shindy and you will not escape. Now, what is important in this context is own revenues. See, using someone else's revenues, what comes from the state or what comes from the Central Finance Commission, you are actually doing the job of a subordinate, agency function. You are like a servant. I am giving you some money, you go and bring potatoes from the market. But if it's your own money, you go and decide whether you want to buy potatoes or you want to buy brinjals. So, own resources is very important for accountability and the accountability and responsibility. The only own revenue gives you a sense of ownership, that this is my government. And we know that local government is the government which allows you to combine the benefit principle with the affordability principle. Benefit principle, you can see your money at work. You gave tax and you can see your drain, sewer being improved or your road being improved. Without own resources, that doesn't happen. Now here, in this context, see, sometimes you have to push it from above. And that pushing has been done by the Central Finance Commission in terms of profession tax and in terms of property tax. I hope the SFCs are focusing on that. See, the professional tax, I'm not saying it should be limitless, but there is no reason why the limit should be 2,500 rupees, which was fixed in 1988. It was changed from 50 rupees to 250 rupees in 1988, and almost 35 years have passed. Much water has flown by the Krishna and Godavari, and it's still 2,500. Just index it to don't put a number in the Constitution. Because if you put a number in the Constitution, again you have to do a very hard job. It will be like pulling teeth, changing that number. Just empower the Parliament to change the number, and the principle can be in line with inflation. And in line with inflation, if I remember right, the 15th Finance Commission calculated that the limit should be 18,000 rupees, 12 times. I don't see any move in that. Again, I'll be very suspicious if either the union government or the state governments are very enthusiastic. Because why should I be enthusiastic about money that you will get? Furthermore, the property tax and profession tax, these have not been devolved to the local bodies either, if I'm not mistaken. Some states have, all states haven't. Should it be devolved? Now, you may say that this is budgeting in times of fiscal crisis. But crisis or not, you must have the right principles. And the crisis is not only the union governments or the state governments, the crisis is also for the panchayats and municipalities. Now, the last but not the least are some housekeeping details. Now you violate the Constitution with impunity. When it comes to Mr. Chandrasekhar Kumar had pointed out as to how we should have had 6 state finance commissions, but there are very few states, 9 he mentioned, which have appointed 6 state finance commissions, the rest have not. You may ask, varna kya? Nahi karenge to kya hoga? Now, in a civilized country, if name and shame is not working, if you are violating the Constitution and you are not ashamed, if you have to tell you कि फांसी में चढ़ा देंगे, I can't do that. I mean, you have to be a dignified lady or dignified gentleman to be ashamed of the fact that you're not doing what the Constitution tells you to do. Now, the Central Finance Commission, 15th Finance Commission, has recommended penalties. But I feel sad that gentlemen and ladies have to be threatened with penalties for not obeying the Constitution. Similarly, the state governments, many state governments do not accept the SFC recommendations, which is a pity. In the center at least, most of the recommendations, barring I think 1 or 2, have been accepted. These are good traditions. These are good precedents to set. Having said that, I must also say that the SFCs have also got a job to be done. So you will command the respect that you deserve. If SFCs are being appointed with people of questionable competence, and the reports that are coming are not that respectable, then this is inevitable. So there's a lot more to be done. The SFCs have to be appointed with a lot more care, on time. The SFCs have to give recommendations which are well argued, on time, and the states have to accept it. Thank you very much. It's a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you so much, sir. I now request Dr.G.Narendra Kumar, sir, to please brief the issues for discussion.
Honorable Secretary, Shri Sunil Kumar ji, Member of the 15th Central Finance Commission, Dr. Ashok Lahiri, Mr. Vijayanand, Chairperson of the Kerala State Finance Commission, Dr. Chandrasekhar Kumar, Additional Secretary, Chairpersons, Member Secretaries, and other officials of the State Finance Commissions, Secretaries to state governments, other officers of the state governments, faculty members of the NIRD, other officials who are present here. Let me at the outset extend all those who are coming from outside NIRD a very warm welcome to NIRD and to this second conclave. As Chandrasekhar was mentioning, this is the second conclave after 2016, and we believe it's a very important subject which needs to be very seriously deliberated upon. So we put in substantial amount of effort to try and distill the key issues that need to be focused upon by the state finance commissions and in the functioning of the state finance commissions. Our effort is to have a good outcome from this conclave rather than make it a talk shop. Workshops quite often become talk shops. So we try to bring out some issues for discussion in the various discussion notes that we made. So here I present to you in one go the various issues for the various sessions that are to follow and for which NIRD developed the discussion notes. So this will be the outline. These are the discussion notes that we have developed. Devolution formula, important areas for consideration for strengthening of the OSR, recommendations on improving local governance, coordination between the state finance commissions and central finance commission, and administrative issues. So these are the few things that notes that we've developed. The first one is the devolution formula. As you all know, and as we all know, devolution formula is key and core and central to the working of the finance commissions, and that's what we want to focus upon. As Dr. Lahiri was mentioning, we need to work out the divisible pool of resources. Various approaches can be taken for what needs to be apportioned in a horizontal way and across the interstate governments, that is, with how much should go to the Gram Panchayat, how much should go to the block Panchayat and to the district Panchayat. And as Chandrasekhar Kumar was mentioning, we need to make an assessment of the revenues based on past trends and expenditures on a normative basis. And when we consider expenditure on a normative basis, we need to consider what should be the basic per capita income that should be available to every panchayat, either from their own source revenue or supported from the state or from the Central Finance Commission. So once we have this normative picture, then we can work backwards to say, look, this is the normative amount which is required for every panchayat on a per capita basis. And then work backwards from there to say that how much should come from own source, taking into consideration own source revenue potential of that panchayat, and how much will come from the state or from the center. So this way I think we will be able to work out the devolution formulas much more systematically. Another key issue that has been experienced by several state finance commissions is the lack of data. So how do we strengthen the systems for data collection, data gathering, so that the devolution formulas can be more systematically worked out and implemented. As I was mentioning, we have to work out the vertical gap, that's the mismatch between expenditure and potential OSR, and also the interjurisdictional distribution of the which needs to be worked out. The other key issue is how do we professionalize the state finance commissions to design fiscal transfers to panchayats to enhance their fiscal capacity and functional autonomy. A lot about which was mentioned by Dr. Lahiri. Next one, please. So as Dr. Lahiri was mentioning, we need to focus upon own source revenue, and it's a key source of revenue for the panchayats, not only from their better self-sustenance, as Dr. Lahiri was mentioning, it brings in accountability. So other sources of revenue may come and go, but this really brings in that accountability framework with which the panchayats can function well, and which is at the core of local governance and local governments. Therefore, we need to bolster the own source revenue. And recommendations have been made by the 14th Finance Commission, but it's not really worked out well. They wanted at least 10% own source revenue to come. And I think somewhere down the line, the system gave up that goal, and ultimately we're today seeing about 4% own source revenue from panchayats, which falls far short of what is the potential of the panchayats. So in this direction, basically, we had some major workshops here on own source revenue in NIRD. And I think three own source of revenue sources need to be thought of. One is the LBT, land-based taxes, property taxes, and so on. Other is the service charges. And third is the innovative sources of finance. Innovative sources of finance include advertisement-based revenues, revenues which come from better utilization of common property resources, better utilization of other natural resources which are available to the panchayats, and so on. So typically what we find is that the panchayats are not willing to tax, but we look at the panchayats' overall scheme of work, they are happy, many of them are happy to provide services and raise revenue for that, such as providing solid waste management services, such as, in rare cases, the water services, sometimes electricity, and so on. So basically, they are not very averse to charging services, but averse to levying taxes, imposing taxes. So we had the opportunity of discussing with some sarpanchas and floated with them this idea to say that can we do this better? If the panchayats, gram panchayats don't want to tax, can we ask someone to tax? Someone to at least collect taxes on behalf of the panchayats? Would that make things more comfortable for you? Such as to say this, that look, can we ask a third party to collect it? Or we ask the block panchayat to collect the taxes of the gram panchayat. And many sarpanchas with whom I recently had an opportunity of interaction, they said they would be very comfortable with that. They just don't want them to be seeing the collecting the taxes from people. If somebody else collects it on their behalf, keeps a part of it as their charges, and gives the rest to them, they're very happy. That's how I think, of course, a little bit of dilution of the accountability framework comes in here, but as a matter of practicality, I think the panchayats will be able to collect that revenue much better through some sort of a disintermediation. That also needs to be thought through in terms of the conceptual framework. Here we mentioned some of the issues that the state government should not provide any exemptions to any entity from the tax, because many of the panchayat leaders say that, look, if we get some sort of an order from the state government that you can collect this much tax from the people, we are happy to do that. But in the absence of any specific order, this is how they put it, we are averse to collecting the taxes. People see that, look, we are collecting the taxes for ourselves or for our benefit, and we don't want to be seen like that. So in that connection, it will be good not to provide any exemptions to any entity from the tax. Also, there is a need for proper assessment of the own source revenue. So far, there is no systematic effort to make an assessment of the own source revenue potential of the panchayats. Now, we have the tools to make this happen. Especially the Ministry of Panchayati Raj has got this new initiative called Swamitva, where we are flying drones to see how properties are, how much area they are spread over, and so on. And once we have these Swamitva pictures, with these, we should be able to assess the own source potential of the panchayats. And once we have the own source potential of the panchayats, we can differentiate and distinguish the panchayats. Right now, there seems to be a uniformity in the in the grants which are devolved to the panchayats, irrespective of the revenue potential of the panchayats, the grants are given. So we can make a distinction now to say that, look, panchayats with higher own source revenue potential, they need to get lesser amount of the devolution, and those with lesser own source revenue potential, they can get more. It's now possible to do this with the Swamitva initiative, which I think we need to ground strongly, and that not only will give a handle to the panchayats on the titling, etc., but will also give us a fairly good idea on the own source revenue potential of the panchayats. Other sources of revenue also need to be thought through, such as the revenue from the mining resources. Then the land conversion charges, all these things need to be thought through. Another key issue that also needs to be deliberated upon is panchayats have lost a lot of revenue which they used to get through the sales tax and through the registration taxes. So a lot of it has been taken away from the panchayats because of the coming in of the GST. Now that the GST has come in, what kind of a compensation can be given to the panchayats directly? Of course, the center is giving compensation to the states. Should the states not further compensate the panchayats? That's also something that we need to think through. A lot of the taxes which the panchayats used to collect, now they have been subsumed in the GST. And I think some compensation needs to go to the panchayats, and we need to focus on that aspect as well. Next slide, please. Here we've got some recommendations on the local governance, which are rather sketchy, as Dr. Lahiri was mentioning, that local government and delivery is becoming more effective and more efficient. But some of the things that we need to perhaps focus upon is, so far, the focus of the local governments is on the outputs. Can we think of moving from outputs to outcomes, and outcomes based on bottom-up planning? One such, again, ambitious initiative, and a challenging one also, which is taken up by the Ministry of Panchayati Raj, is the localization of SDGs, such as developing a poverty-free village, such as having a healthy village, a socially secure village, and all this. These are lofty goals, and we're traveling in that direction of achieving those goals. But whatever target the panchayat sets for itself, such as reduction in infant mortality rate, maternal mortality rate, immunization, and so on and so forth, can we have panchayats develop some sort of a project and work towards that and achieve that, and for that purpose have a pool of devolved funds at the district level, and the district level decides to say, okay, this is the outcome you want to achieve, and for this we're going to give you this kind of a funding, rather than straight away devolve funding to all the panchayats. We could have a basic level of service delivery fund devolution which can go to the panchayat, and beyond that the funding can be more outcome based. Can we focus on that kind of a framework for the future is something that we need to think through. Another key aspect with the panchayats is the dearth of capacities in the panchayats, which prevent the panchayats from doing what they have to do even on a day-to-day basis. There is a grave deficit of governance capacities in the panchayats, including accounting related capacities and so on. So can we bring capacities into the panchayats by contracting out many of the services that are taken up by the panchayats? In NIRD, we developed a very strong framework for the wash sector. How can we contract out wash services, especially given the Jal Jeevan mission, which is investing about 3.5 lakh crore rupees in the country. And of course, we're moving in the direction of providing pipe drinking water supply to every household, and we're quite successful with that. But what happens to these assets which are built with such a huge amount of investment after the Jal Jeevan mission is over? The assets have to be taken care of by the panchayats. Are we preparing the panchayats to take care of these assets? Are the panchayats even capable of taking care of these assets? Or would they just wither away, they rust, and they fall away? So that's something that we need to think through. So a solution could be that panchayats clearly at this point in time don't have the capacity to maintain these assets. Can we bring in contractors? By contractors, we don't mean even private sector players, but there's other parallel huge structure which is there in the villages through the self-help groups, who are again don't have the kind of business enterprises or micro enterprises to sustain them. So as a result, they're all there, sitting there and functioning as saving and thrift organizations, but not really moved towards self-employment entities. So can we link up these two, the dearth of capacities in the panchayats and the need for creating micro enterprises of self-help group women, and contract out many of these services that the panchayat delivers to self-help group based entities? So through this, we will be able to substantially improve the service delivery in the villages and in the panchayats. Can we think about this kind of a governance framework is something, and ultimately leading to focus on the outcomes and achievement of the localized SDGs. Besides besides providing for the basic minimum of services, for which we need to work out a devolution formula and provide for that. So as I was mentioning, another key issue that we need to focus upon is SHG-PRI convergence that we need to work out. And in the governance area again, in NIRD we developed a services-based citizen charter for the panchayats and developed guidelines for that, which the ministry took forward to many panchayats of this country, and they're doing well. But for whatever services that the panchayat promises to provide to the citizen, do they have the funds? Do they have the finances to make this happen? Can we at least provide for the basic minimum set of those services and provide funds for that? And from there, work backwards to say that, look, how much of that could come from own source revenue, how much would come from the state, how much needs to come from the center, and how much more could be utilized for taking up the outcome-based projects. Next one, please. The coordination between the SFCs and CFCs, this has been an issue that needs to be focused upon, that we always thought that the SFC recommendations will be available to the CFC. CFC will use this as a raw material and come out with these recommendations. But this kind of a coordination never happened. Of course, there's a lag in the constitution of the SFCs. There's a lag in their giving recommendations and in the acceptance of the recommendations. How can we bring about better coordination between the functioning of the state finance commissions and the central finance commission? To operationalize suggestions given by successive CSCs to strengthening and functioning of the SFCs, many of them have not been acted upon. How can we enable this to happen? How can we bring harmony between the grants of the CFCs and devolution of the SFCs? There doesn't appear to be any harmony. The CFC is on its own, SFC is making recommendations on its own. Many of them are not accepted or not implemented. How can we bring about better harmony between the recommendations of the CFC and SFCs? This is a major issue. As Dr. Lahiri was mentioning, some penalties have been imposed. Should we now start thinking about this, that we need to link the CFC grants to implementation of SFC recommendations, their acceptance and implementation of the recommendations? Should we at least say that the SFC recommendations, if they are to be rejected by the state, they at least need to be placed before the assembly, discussed and debated, to say that for these reasons we do not accept these recommendations. So some sort of a rigidity will come for the implementation of the recommendations. Next one, please. And these are some administrative issues related to the functioning of the SFCs. As we all know, and my speakers before me have mentioned, that the SFCs are not constituted in time. And when they are constituted, they take substantial amount of time to prepare the reports because they're not given the support structures, they're not given the staff, they're not given offices, and so on. So they take substantial amount of time. And they don't have the resources or capabilities to be able to develop the reports well. And once they make the recommendations, that some states, state finance commissions have made good recommendations, but quite a few states have arbitrarily sort of just rejected them and set them aside. So can we have a system to for the states to come to more rational conclusions on those recommendations. Even if they reject in a reasonable manner by at least discussing, debating in the public forum such as an assembly. So these are a few issues that we thought we will place before you, and they would be coming up in the various sessions before you. So we thought that in a snapshot to place before you some of the issues that we have developed in NIRD, and we hope that the deliberations of this conclave will be successful, and they will result in stronger SFCs who can make better recommendations, recommendations that are accepted by the state, recommendations that are transformative for the local government and local governance. Thank you very much, and wish you a pleasant stay here. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir. I now take this opportunity to request Shri Sunil Kumar, sir, to please brief about Panchayati Raj, Central Finance Commission and State Finance Commissions.
Good morning to all participants. Dr. Lahiri, Shri Vijayanand, DG NIRDPR, my colleague Dr. Chandrasekhar, and all esteemed participants in this two-day National Conclave on State Finance Commissions. The issues have been clearly laid down, and since we have representatives from State Finance Commissions, and there are some of their member secretaries here, at least from 9-10 states, and a few state government representatives from Finance Department, which issues the notification regarding setting up of State Finance Commissions. And with the experience and expertise available from the member Central Finance Commission, Dr. Lahiri, Shri Vijayanand, and all of you who are gathered here, and also from academics, academicians who have worked in this field, I'm sure the deliberations will lead to a positive outcome. We wanted to focus on this, the working of state finance commissions, because the 15th Finance Commission, it made three observations. One was that the local self-government institutions must be duly constituted. Now, duly constituted means elected bodies should be there. Last 2 years, when we had COVID, on account of that national pandemic, the elections were postponed, they were not held, and through administrative orders in some states, the term of the existing GPs were extended. In some of states, they were replaced by administrative status. And because of COVID exigencies in the first 2 years, 2021 and 21-22, we in Government of India, the Finance Department, as well as the Ministry, all of us felt that the conditions laid down in the guidelines which have been issued by Ministry of Finance, we will not insist upon, and the funds would be released. So the entire funds in the first 2 years were released. But in the current financial year, we made it clear to the states that now this excuse will not hold. If local bodies are not duly constituted, then the release of installments, Central Finance Commission installments, will stop. And that was the trigger which worked. Now we have virtually all states, once their first installment got stopped, and the message they wrote to the minister, and reply went from the minister that no, you have to now constitute hold elections and constitute the local bodies. Now that has been done. So over the last 30 years, by and large, what we are seeing now is that the periodicity of holding elections, there has been through the working of state election commissions, and with the discipline that is now being sort of attached to having duly constituted local governing units in place, I think that issue is getting slowly resolved, mainstreamed. Everyone is getting to accept. And we also had High Court and Supreme Court decisions in this matter. People did go to, state governments did go to Supreme Court also. And there it was resolved that in the Constitution, there is no provision of President's rule or Governor's rule as far as local self. And even for the State Election Commission, you cannot increase the sort of tenure of any previous elected body even by a single day. So it means the elections must be conducted before the expiry of the term. And in several states, even the state election commissions were not following this in sort of toto. But now we feel that because of these circumstances which have been created, first, over the last 30 years, developments which have taken place, then the experience of COVID, where everyone realized that it was the local, the panchayats and the panchayat functionaries who were there out in the field. No departmental officer or government functionary was there in the field in those times. And it was these people who were sort of managing the whole show. Even during the first lockdown, the entire procurement, grain procurement in the months of April, May, even in state of Punjab and Haryana, that could take place only because of the sort of work, exemplary work which was done by the panchayats. So because of these things, this has happened. The second issue which has been highlighted is that if SFCs are not duly constituted, then in the last 2 years of 15th FC recommendations, one was the interim year where they had given whatever had been given by the 14th FC. And for the first 3 years, you have to make progress, but 4th year and 5th year, that is 24-25 and 25-26, the devolution will not take place if state finance commissions are not duly constituted and their recommendations are not acted upon. And their Ministry of Panchayati Raj, which makes the recommendation to Department of Expenditure in Ministry of Finance, it has been asked to undertake this exercise. So far, we were also just looking at it broadly, whether SFC has been constituted or not, and that's the end of the story. But now we'll have to go into greater detail. And because we wanted to go into greater detail, we wanted to let people be sensitized, let the state finance departments be sensitized, apart from Panchayati Raj and urban development departments. And let this broad consensus emerge that we have to work to a timeline, we have to work in a disciplined manner. And then all these issues began to come to the fore. You have one state where an SFC is constituted for 1 year, no staff, nothing is provided, 1 year goes. After that, when the staff is given, then the SFC takes its time, and then one fine day, government says that SFC is hereby disbanded. You have other examples where report of SFC is given, no action is taken on the recommendations of the SFC. The report is tabled in the legislature after a delay of 2 years or more, and instead of 5 years devolution being made to the panchayats or the local bodies as per the recommendations of the SFC, the state chooses to make that devolution for only 3 years. Now, if Central Finance Commission funds do not get released, state chief ministers and everyone, they will move heaven and hell. Why this delay? But for the SFC recommendations, if those are not being released, or if there's a delay in release of funds, no questions asked. No editorials will appear in any newspaper. This situation also will need to change. We cannot let this continue forever, because now, as we are saying, circumstances have placed us in such a scenario where there is no alternative other than having very strong institutions of local self-government. I can't see any future without a very strong unit of local self-government institutions evolving and developing in the country. And that has to happen in the whole of, not only in the southern states, but also in the northern states, Hindi heartland. If it can happen in Uttar Pradesh and Madhya Pradesh and Bihar, it will happen in the rest of the country without any much ado. But that has to happen. The existing mechanism that we have for providing services to the people, that is clearly failing. The institution of district magistrates, deputy commissioners being made responsible for every program that is being implemented by central and state government, and the benefits accruing to the people, that to a large extent is not happening as satisfactorily as we would like them to have. And therefore, the issue of accountability becomes extremely important. And when we come to the issue of accountability, and if funds are going to get transferred to the panchayats and urban local bodies, then proper systems need to be put in place, both in terms of account keeping and auditing. And this is something which was referred to by Dr. Lahiri too. And I recall that in our first interaction that we had with the 15th Finance Commission, then this was stressed upon. Fortunately, for the rural Panchayati Raj institutions, because of the work which was done over the past 10-12 years, we now have a fairly evolved and developed e-Gram Swaraj portal where work-based account keeping that is happening. All the expenditures that are being incurred, all payments are being made through PFMS, and that is being tracked off. And this is happening for the last 2 to 3 years now. Similarly, for audit, earlier no one used to even ask as to how many accounts of how many Gram Panchayats have been audited, whether in most states by the local fund auditors working under the finance department, and in a couple of states, including West Bengal, where the AG does the audit, and there too it is lagging far behind. So the online audit module, which we introduced in 2020, and for the year 2019-20, audit of 1.15 lakh Gram Panchayats has been completed, whereas we had targeted only 70,000. And when we had mentioned it to Finance Department, then Department of Expenditure had said, no, you do 1 lakh. But we have done 1.15 lakh for 1920. And for 2021, we have already done 1.80 lakh Gram Panchayats. So that has been done, and we are targeting for 21-22, 100% we should be doing at least 2 years ahead of the schedule which has been set by the 15th FC. And the response that we have received from the states has been extremely encouraging. In most states, the local fund auditors, which used to be the dumping ground of officers not considered fit for sort of posting in other so-called lucrative positions in finance department. For once, through use of technology, through use of these online modules, through use of these online modules, they felt that yes, attention has been focused on there and they are able, the manpower shortages which they used to face, to a large extent because of technology, that has been sort of sorted out to a certain extent. But the main thing is that attention has been focused on their work. Now the challenge here is, and all of you who are experienced would be knowing, that for state audit done by AG or CAG, those are laid in the assembly or the parliament. And then you have the Public Accounts Committee, which goes into or looks after the serious issues. But for the panchayats, we do not have any sort of such EA in place in most of the states. Even in Kerala, which is a very developed state, in several ways, the action taken on the report, that is dealt with like on government files in the normal course. And that may take, whether it takes 6 years, 10 years, 15 years, no one knows. No questions are raised. So it is high time that we begin to think, and here we are in consultation with the states, that the action taken report on the audit report which has been finally sort of submitted must be placed before the Gram Sabha. And once it has been placed before the Gram Sabha, then it should be there in the public domain. So let people begin to ask as to why action has not been taken, or if action is being taken, then in what time frame will that action be complete, especially on serious matters where defalcation or of money is involved, or misappropriation of funds is involved. So, but this will call for changes in the laws and rules, and we are in consultation not only with the states, also with the CAG and his team, that whether we can go ahead and make this year. But we would like that people who think on these issues, who are concerned about accountability, transparency, they also collectively sort of think, deliberate, and give their suggestions on these points, not only for us, but also to the state governments. And this is one area where in the reports of the SFC, maybe there could be certain recommendations which could be made, if it is deemed important enough. On own source of revenue, much has been said, and it is clearly there in the terms of reference of the SFCs. We have set up a committee. The report of that committee, which is examining this aspect of OSR, will be sharing it with the states. Normally, we send it to the Panchayati Raj department, but this time we'll also send it to the finance department, the planning department. Let everyone in government know that yes, these are things which need to be done. Let them take stock of where they stand. And as was suggested, and maybe we think time has come, where in the ministry we set up a specialized cell which looks into or makes a sort of comparative note study of various SFCs which are working, which have been constituted, whose recommendations have been placed. Because then only when after, from 24-25, when we will be making our recommendation regarding release of 15th FC funds, we will be in a proper place to do so on very objective criteria. And I feel that it is high time that even in the states, the state finance department sets up an SFC cell so that when the new SFC is constituted, not much time gets lost in hiring consultants, in getting office space, etc. So this could be something which can be thought of. But in the ministry, we'll be definitely setting up a cell which will be undertaking this job. And likewise, it is my suggestion, and again it is for the consideration of everyone, that not only in NIRDPR, but we have a few institutions like these, such as Kila in Kerala, State Institute of Rural Development, Mysuru in Karnataka, Yashda in Maharashtra, and a few more, and maybe some academic institutions also, which could undertake specialized sort of or a more detailed analysis of SFCs and their requirements for a cluster of states, because it is beyond one institution's capacity to serve the requirements of all SFCs all over the country. So maybe they could specialize in respect of certain states. And then everyone in the states know, the SFC knows, कि if we want to have this study, we can approach this institution, which is, has the expertise to handle this in a very short span of time. Otherwise, right now we have, say, Chhattisgarh asking NIRDPR to undertake some study, someone sort of approaching some other institution, and then the capacity of those institutions to deliver in time, that also becomes, sometimes they fail to deliver in time. So it may help if we work out a professional arrangement in this case. And finally, one last point which I would like to stress upon is when it comes to OSR. Recently, we had this national conference on theme 1, that is poverty-free and enhanced livelihood village. And one lady Sarpanch from Odisha, she mentioned and very proudly mentioned that when she had joined as Sarpanch, the own tax revenue was less than 1.5 lakh per annum. And now she had raised it to 34 lakh per annum. And she was running 17 different type of schemes catering to the needs of right from children to adolescent girls, boys, elderly people, everyone. No section was left out. Hearing her, I felt that she would be the envy of any MLA or MP. Even if they want with all their MLA lads and MP lads funds, they cannot run 17 different types of scheme for their constituents. But she was able to do that. OSR is one area where if the panchayats do not become active, where they do not take the lead, then no matter how much fund we devolve under Central Finance Commission or State Finance Commission, they will never be able to provide or deliver the services fully, satisfactorily to all their constituents. This is something which is cast in stone, and I personally believe that there's no other way. People will need to focus on that. How they can go about it? DG NIRDPR mentioned regarding property taxes. In one panchayat, in a few panchayats in Maharashtra where Swamitva work has been completed, there was 10% increase because just from the existing property taxpayers, because their property plot size and built up area was not properly indicated in their records. And because you now have accurate records which are undisputed, which everyone accepts because they see the picture themselves, and by any measurement whichever they do, when measurement is done using handheld rovers and with corrections being provided by CORS, the accuracy is plus minus 5 centimeter. You can't have more accurate records than that anywhere in the world. And now that is happening thanks to the sort of technology, the initiative, and the work that is being done by the Survey of India and the surveyors of the state revenue departments. And that data is going to now that drone survey has been done for 2 lakh villages, and the states which have signed in, ultimately we feel that over the next 2-3 years, about 4.5 lakh villages will get covered under this. Some states which have not signed in, they will be also willy-nilly forced to do this using their own funds, using their own resources. Whether it is West Bengal, whether it is Bihar, whether it is Telangana, whether it is Tamil Nadu, they will need to do it. Because the old way of measuring land through jarib or chains, that has to give way to this new way of measuring lands using latest satellite and other drone technology. There is no getting away from it. So that will be another area which could be looked at as to how panchayats can generate more own source of revenue. And another issue which I would like to flag is that the way we undertake work, development work, that I think perhaps the financing model will need to change. And recently in Kerala, we came across one example where for a cluster of GPs, they decided to set up a modern sort of IT center called Shri workplace, where only women will be employed. The project report was for 20 crores. The district panchayat, block panchayat, and 4 or 5 gram panchayats which were there, they chipped in with 2 crore rupees as equity. Block panchayat gave the land. State government gave equal contribution to equity. So 4 crores out of 20 crores was arranged through this manner. And the rest they were taking as loan. And then there would be a private player who would be running that sort of Shri workplace. So this could be another model where all these 3 organs, the district panchayat, block panchayat, and gram panchayat, they come together, become equal stakeholders. And we will also need, because substantial funds are also flowing to block panchayats and district panchayats now. As per 15th FC recommendations, it could be anything between 70 to 85% to GPs and 30 to 15% to block panchayats and district panchayats. So on an average, roughly about 25% of the funds are flowing to block panchayats and district panchayats. So how we establish that linkage between district panchayat, block panchayat, and gram panchayat, because the work which will get executed with funds coming from anywhere will be located in some gram panchayat boundary. So this is something where we need to focus upon, can there be new ways, new financing models for executing works? Because as I see it, the way unplanned growth, spatial expansion is happening along national highways and state highways in about 50 to 60,000 gram panchayats which are located on, in the vicinity of national highways and state highways. It is high time that we need to begin to undertake sort of spatial planning for these gram panchayats, have master plans developed, permit land conversion, and let the local panchayats, the local panchayat units be beneficiaries of the escalation in land prices rather than outsiders coming from other places and making investments there. So these are some of the things which we wanted to highlight. All of you are extremely experienced, and I'm sure the deliberations over 8 technical sessions over the next 2 days will be extremely useful, and the recommendations that we, or the suggestions that we receive from this conclave, will be definitely taking it up with all state governments, their finance departments, and everyone else concerned, and ensure that this work does not get sort of left out or ignored anymore. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I now request Director General NIRDPR to please felicitate our dignitaries with a memento as a token of thanks, followed by a vote of thanks by Dr. R. Chinnadurai. Thank you, sir. I now request Dr. R. Chinnadurai, Associate Professor, CPR and NIRDPR, to please give vote of thanks.
A very good morning to all. It has been such an honor to be a part of this wonderful event. On behalf of NIRDPR and staff, I am very glad to express my vote of thanks. A special thanks to our chief guest, Dr. Ashok Lahiri, Honorable Member, 15th Central Finance Commission, for accepting our invitation and for being here with us today. Your thoughts have truly inspired us, sir. Actually, we have had very insightful academic speech from a politician. I also extend my sincere thanks to Shri Sunil Kumar, sir, Secretary, Ministry of Panchayati, Government of India, who has given the real position of functioning of the Gram Panchayat and cautioned the states or the relevant the institution to take care of the future requirement and the recommendations of the State Finance Commission and the conditions to get funds from the central government. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Your thoughts have truly inspired us. I also extend my sincere, heartfelt thanks to Dr. Chandrasekhar Kumarji, Additional Secretary, MoPR, for his enthusiastic involvement in Panchayats, making vibrant, and his meaningful ideas always gives energy to the CPR of the NIRDPR. And today, he rightly started by expressing the importance and need for organizing this SFC and its further course of action. This is the great honor to thank our beloved Director General, Dr. Narendra Kumar, sir, who is the kingpin of this enclave, and he extended extraordinary support and guidance in designing the conclave and also even in planning for logistic support in a greater manner. I would be failing in my duty if I did not thank Sri Vijayanand, sir, former Secretary, MoPR as well as RD, for his continuous support for faculty, and his presence will make this enclave great success. And he has been, right from the beginning, he has been instituting the ideas how this very important conclave can take forward and come out with important outputs. I would also like to thank each and every one of you for being here and making this conclave a meaningful roadmap for strengthening financial status of the PRIs. I extend my sincere thanks to all my faculty colleagues and the respected honorable chairman and member secretaries of various states and experts from different academic institutions for their accepting our request and coming here and participating in this conclave. Thank you, one and all.
Thank you, sir. I now request all to please join for a group photo and tea. After tea break, we will start up with our technical session at SK Rao Hall, which is floor above this hall. The session will be taken up by Shri S.M. Vijayanand sir. Thank you.
దాన్ని బట్టి ఎవరి దానికి వెళ్ళిపోతాయి.